outermost part of the tree. So if you are looking for an easy tree to climb, the loblolly tree would not be your first choice. These trees can also be identified and generally for pine trees in general, not just for loblolly pines. You will find that the bark of the tree can actually chip off very, very easily. And some of you might even use pine chips in your landscaping instead of mulch, which is an excellent choice because pine chips, unlike mulch, they're also known as pine nuggets, are not just ground up bits of pine tree, but in fact these pine chips or pine nuggets can be harvested off the pine tree. You can think of this as similar to when a snake goes through a molting and sheds its skin. As it grows, the pine tree does very much the same with its bark. So, as the pine tree grows, you will notice that there will be a pool of pine nuggets around the base of the tree that have fallen off as the tree has grown. So does the bark, and because it grows in layers, once the bark has reached a point where it no longer fits the tree, it then falls off. So you can actually aid this process if you look to the very right of the screen. You will see a pine tree, a loblolly pine tree trunk, and you can actually see on the bark the nuggets in nugget form still attached to the tree. So it looks, almost like puzzle pieces, just natural form puzzle pieces that have been put together, almost even going back to our snake analogy. It almost looks like scales. So we can see a pine tree scales on the trunk to the right of our view. Also, if you look up in the very left top corner, you can see more pine tree scales. And also, if you just go to the right, you'll also be able to make out some pine tree scales. And there are several more pine trees in front of us, but it's harder to distinguish also distinguish the loblolly pine trees in this view for the almost little clouds of green that you see, as it is still February. Not many trees have started to bloom. There are a few that have, specifically the redbud tree has started blooming, and because we've had a few very warm days, spring has kick-started itself a bit early. So the groundhog was a little bit off. Spring started much earlier than we had anticipated, instead of arriving late as he predicted, but we won't fault him too much for that. But coming back to the loblolly pines and identifying them, now it is kind of difficult to get a clear picture of the pine needles, just given the numerous trunks that skew our view. But you can see the bits of green here and there. Those are the branches of the loblolly pine, and you can see, most of those start rather high up. Very few are near the ground, even though there is pine on the ground, and I'd love to talk about what that plant is. Unlike our last video, it is not moss, so I will let you observe as I chat a little bit more about the pine trees that I'm so, I guess, honestly I could say in love with, but there are certain aspects of this specific type of pine tree, the loblolly pine. I do love to say the name, absolutely. Loblolly. Loblolly. It's a very fun word. I don't know who named the loblolly pine, but I do appreciate their naming choice. So, pine trees have many benefits. Specifically, one of the things that we actually use the pine nuggets for is it's really great for fertilizing blueberries. The blueberry bushes that we have, we actually, before we started landscaping, we had our blueberry bushes planted in our backyard, and specifically for the purpose of being able to harvest the blueberries. One of the things that you should do if you have blueberry bushes and you'd like to actually produce fruit from those bushes is taking pine nuggets and spreading them around the base of the bush, because it's really good for the pH of the plant. So that's definitely something that I recommend doing, and actually, you don't have to necessarily go to the store and get a bag of pine nuggets to do it. We originally just went right to our backyard, so these pine trees that you see, we would go and just scrape off some of the bark or pick up some of the nuggets that had already fallen, which I should say is better for the tree. If there are, bits that you can flake is like our skin. So you can very, very greatly hurt the tree by removing its bark, to the point where the tree actually could die, depending on how much bark is removed. So something just to be careful of. So only if the nuggets are willing to go off the tree, and then of course nuggets that have already fallen around the tree. So that's what I did. I collected the nuggets from our backyard, and I put them around our blueberry bushes. And our first year of having the blueberry bushes, we were able to produce, a handful of really quite delicious blueberries. So yeah, great benefits of pine trees. There's the needles as well, which can also sometimes be a hindrance, but I think we've talked enough for today about the loblolly pine. The next pine that I want to talk to you about is this ground pine, as I've been taught to call it. It can also be called trailing pine, and it is, just as the name says, here on the ground before us. It is a ground covering plant, so that means that if you let it go, it will just take over. And actually, I'd say it covers the back acre, if not 2 acres of our property. I'd love it to cover more, and we try and cultivate it as much as we can, because it's actually, I'm not sure if it's an officially endangered plant, but it is disappearing at a pretty rapid pace, because ground pine is probably one of the most used pines when it comes to creating Christmas wreaths. So it is used in decorating for the holidays, and I've specifically known people to use it in creating Advent wreaths. We do not use it for that purpose. We actually do not use it at all. We do not harvest it. We are very much believers in leave no trace. So even just our tiny little forest, we want to leave it and preserve it as much as possible. So we are big advocates for letting the natural foliage grow. And we're very fortunate that this trailing pine, or ground pine, is part of that natural foliage. It's really just quite a beautiful, beautiful plant. When you look at it, it is so delicate, and it grows much like a vine, just on the ground, and it's just amazing to walk back and just see the sea of green in the middle of winter. It's definitely something that we want to keep around. So I encourage everyone, when it comes to the making of holiday wreaths, let's try and use those things that we're not having to kill for the sake of a decoration for just a very short period of time. I would encourage you to use fake plants for decorations, so you can use them year after year, and you don't have to sacrifice these beautiful organisms for something that is not really permanent. And that's all I want to say about that. also